presentation is called The 9 Patterns of Conflict and Effective Mediation Tips. And in preparing for this presentation, I found some interesting facts I'd like to share with you. Did you know that interpersonal and communication issues are the fundamental cause of conflict, more so than the substantive disagreements? Miscommunication is the main cause of 65 to 80% of workplace disputes. And this costs organizations about $62.4 million a year, just costs involved in the impact of errors, doing the work again and again, or any kind of delays associated with that. 90% of executives from 68 countries have reported that cross-cultural miscommunication negatively impact their businesses. And miscommunication is actually the leading cause of divorce in the US, and I would probably say, across the borders everywhere. So we do need to learn to connect with one another. We need to learn to talk to each other. And could you imagine what it would be like if we knew how to talk to one another? If we knew each other beyond our behaviors, if we could know each other's pains and fears, and more importantly, if we could know each other's desires and essence, how would that help us communicate more effectively, build strong relationships, and resolve conflicts, mediate conflicts? So you don't have to imagine that anymore, because today you're going to learn that. That's what the presentation is all about, the barriers to conflict resolution. And of course, these may be your personal conflicts or the conflicts you mediate in your practices or any other conflicts. Conflicts are everywhere. But before I get there, let me start a little bit with me. I am a lawyer. I started my practicing law in Brazil. I was an IP, intellectual property lawyer there for 6 years before I came to the United States for a master's degree. And I started my career as a lawyer in the United States in 1997. I was a corporate IP lawyer for a multinational corporation. In 2008, I started studying psychology. Part of my work as a lawyer had to do with mediation and conflict resolution. So I became very curious on the field of psychology. So I did a master's in psychology. And then in 2003, I started an LLM in dispute resolution at Pepperdine University, the Strauss Institute. And I was within the LLM for maybe a year. I did mediation for a few years after that with CAMP, the California Association of Mediation Professionals, and I used to go to the LA courthouses and actually work on very highly emotional cases, civil harassment and eviction and things like that. And I realized I wasn't being as neutral and impartial as I really portrayed myself to be. So I stopped the LLM to go study spiritual sciences. I did a doctorate in spiritual sciences where I graduated in 2018. And after that, I founded the Institute for Next Level Leadership, where we offer programs on leadership and conflict resolution. 21, 22, I launched 2 books. I published Critical Access and Naked Truths, reflecting my own journey of understanding myself and mediating myself and bringing peace into my life and my businesses and my relationships. And in 2023, I'm here. Part of what I do is coaching, mediating, and education. So what I learned from these 3 fields that I studied, law, psychology, and spirituality, is that law regulates human behavior. Psychology tries to understand human behavior. And spirituality indicates the origins of human behavior. So what you're going to see today is a mix of all of this. I'm going to go briefly through an introduction, and then I'm going to show you the psychological barriers for conflict resolution, and then tips on how to handle them. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to go, barrier by barrier. We're going to see 9 of them. There's little short videos for each one of them, because more so than what I'm going to be telling you intellectually, there is an energetic in those styles that I think it's very important for you to observe. In fact, observation is a fundamental skill here. I'm not going to ask you to believe in anything that you cannot observe yourself. So your ability to neutrally observe yourself and observe others is crucial. All right, so let's start with a short introduction here. And I think every conflict starts with a problem. And when we are mediating or when we are dealing with conflict, the conversation is usually, what's the problem? But from there, we have to move into what's possible. Otherwise, we can never get out of the problem. And from what's possible, we actually graduate into what will persist. What are we going to do? How we're going to move on in the future? And these, I think, are the 3 main steps that we cover in conflict. And the presentation will follow that. For each barrier, we're going to talk about the problem, the possibility, and the future, what we want to persist out of that. Okay. All right, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about conflict. So there's always party 1 or party 2 or many parties in a conflict. But what happens in a conflict too, each party involved in that conflict is actually going through another underlying conflict between who I think I am to who I truly am. How that duality of who I think I am and who I truly am plays out in every conflict. And the way I talk about it is, who I think I am is our ego. And our ego can become very problematic. As you will see, there's 9 patterns of barriers that the ego can create. But who I truly am is this essence, kind of like the soul essence. It's the light inside, the parts of us that are inherently wise. And that's where possibility can start flourishing. And so we're going to look into this ego and essence duality and how we walk from one to another. Okay. All right, so let's start with our barriers to conflict resolution. The first one we call the critic. And the problem with the critic, and here I'll encourage you to think of, maybe there is a case you're working on, or there's someone in your life, or maybe ourselves. We have been in the position of the critic many times. So just think about that as I move on. But the problem with the critic is that the critic is focusing on mistakes. We are looking for what's wrong. There is a certain rigidity about the right and wrong, the good and bad, the beautiful and ugly, the dualities, and like an unwillingness to change. It's all about the polarities. And there is that tendency to want to enforce whatever rules, regulations, laws, whatever it is, we are attached to the enforcement of those. Okay, so in this place of the critic, we are actually playing a projection called critical perfectionism. Those names are given by Sandra Maitre in one of her books, and it's all in the bibliography for the presentation. But the projection is when we are in fear of being bad, corrupted, or flawed, we start pointing out what's bad, corrupted, or flawed in others. Kenneth Cloak has said something very enlightening about conflict resolution. He says, in every accusation, there is a confession. And so those projections are powerful in revealing the confession that lies in every accusation, because we sort of project out that those parts of us that we are fearful about. And so in the critic, that looks a lot like this. Have you been there? Have you seen those persons where it's going to be a no? It's never good enough. It's never achieve the standard that person requires. And so The critic will say things like, right is right, wrong is wrong, that's all there is to it. Or will say something like, why can't the other person be as good as me, or as organized as me, or as appropriate as me, or, you fill in the blank. I know how things should be done. If I don't do this, nobody else will, or nobody else will do it to the standards that I have for it. And I'm not angry. I'm just trying to do what's right here. Let's go for what's right here. That's the energy of the critic. And these are the red flags. The red flags is, the unsympathetic in us. We start feeling morally superior, indignant, narrow-minded, very harsh and judgmental, and very critical. So when we are facing the critic, the possibility is to look at their core desire. The core desire that we harbor inside is this desire to be good, to be honorable, and to live with a purpose, even when our behavior doesn't reflect that. And the essence here, there is an essence, it's like an aura of goodness and blessedness and order and structure that lies underneath our behavior. And so for mediator tip, when you see someone in this situation, when your clients are in this situation, you know that they're pointing out what's wrong and what's corrupted and what's flawed in someone else. They are feeling wronged, corrupted, and flawed. And so in that place, this is a few things we can do. Let's specify the rules and the guidelines, make sure we enforce them throughout the process. Clarify process and procedures. They love process and procedures. It makes them feel safe. Emphasize impartiality, demonstrate impartiality. And here is the next part, is bringing forward the essence that they have forgotten. And for the critic, the essence has to do with goodness, with alignment, with excellence, with blessing, with integrity, order, structure, perfection. So how do I do that? Sometimes I do this. I mean, you can be very creative on how to bring forward the essence and how to remember them into their essence again. And often you can talk about a story that it reveals some kind of blessing or some kind of goodness, or you can ask them, what's your purpose? Or you can emphasize the structure within which we are going through the process to maintain the integrity. So, and even just pointing out these words, throwing out the words randomly can create a comfort and a connection with the person that you are working with. And hopefully, the resolution comes out of that. Okay, number two is the overgiver. The problem with the overgiver is that it focuses on complaining. It's someone that is complaining. It feels that I've been taken for granted here. I'm unappreciated, unheard, unseen, unloved. Nobody loves me, even though I've done so much. So I start being manipulative because I'm giving in order to receive. It's like my will versus their will. I don't care what they want. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm offering. They should be thankful. They should see all that I'm doing. And the projection here is the need to be needed. In this projection, what we do is we are afraid of being unwanted and unappreciated. So we actually make others feel unworthy of our love and our care. And it's that place of like, look at all that I've been doing here. Look at all that I've done for you. And you didn't even say thank you. You can see that a lot in divorce procedures. In fact, let's watch a really short one right now where you can see the pattern. And the pattern is actually not with the woman that is talking. It's with the man. The man is the overgiver, but it brings into the woman this sense of being engulfed. So let's watch the pattern here and you'll understand better.
Cook 4-course meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 o'clock in the morning. If I was hungry, he wouldn't fix me a sandwich. This man would make a whole meatloaf potatoes and gravy, vegetables, a big stupid cup of Kool-Aid. I go to sleep right on that. Get up in the morning, he done fixed French toast, pancakes, grits, biscuits. So now I'm laying on food on top of the food I just laid on a couple of hours ago.
So your complaint is that this man cooks too often and too well, and
he made me gain weight.
Mrs. Lucas?
I mean, he cooked full-course meals for breakfast.
There you go. You see the process of engulfing that happens with the overgiver. And the overgiver is someone who would say, well, if it weren't for me, where would they be? You know, if he really cared for me, he would have thanked me, or he would have seen what I've been doing. Or I will not take no for answers. Look at all that I did for them. They never thanked me for it. That's the pattern of the dynamic. And the red flag here is when we become discouraging, we become manipulative, we become this martyr, you know, the patronizing, very prideful, insincere, and actually overbearing. Now, what lies underneath this pattern is a great desire to be appreciated and acknowledged. And the essence here is the essence of being the provider. Think of like the umbilical cord of creation. You know, it's this essence that wants to feed, that wants to sustain, wants to nurture and care for the other. But of course, the other doesn't see that, and then there's the conflict. But once we start realizing the desire and the essence, possibility starts to come forward. And as a mediator, what we can do when you see somebody in this place is listen to them attentively, repeat back to them what you understood so they feel heard, they feel seen. Appreciate and acknowledge them whenever possible. Give them the appreciation, the acknowledgement, and the love that they're hoping to get from the other party. And help them rationalize what's happening, because the heart is so involved here, and sometimes they can't see this dynamic. They can't see that they are engulfing the other party. And of course, remember them into their essence, the essence of sustenance and nourishment and caring and loving and sweetness and kindness. Sometimes you can see in their voice, even when they are mad, you know, there's this touch of sweetness and kindness underneath all that madness. And so remembering them in that essence and bringing that essence alive during the mediation becomes really powerful. Okay, number three. Number three is the deceptive. The deceptive is someone who's making false accusations. They're shaming others. You know, they're like, what's here for me? What can I get out of this? They're very involved in their image of success. And, you know, we all have played those parts at some point. And the projection here is that chasing after success. There is a fear there, the fear of being worthless and without value. When we fear being worthless and without value, we make others feel valueless by treating them with arrogance and contempt. That's the projection that is going on here. So let's see a little representation of that. And of course, those representations are very exaggerated, but in conflict, we usually get very exaggerated manifestations of those barriers. So here you go. Take a look at this short video.
Can you move? Like, I'm trying to take a photo. I don't want you in it.
People just don't get it.
Can everyone move?
You see, like, there's the sense of entitlement, if you will, in the pattern. So they would say things like, it bothers me when others don't acknowledge my excellence or the excellence of what I've done. I have to cut corners to achieve my goals, and that's totally fine because the ends are more important than the means. I will not be a nobody. I'm better than anyone else. There is that sense of superiority. And what do I have to do to impress you? And they just go for that. The red flags here is being aggressively competitive, we enter into this overdrive of do. How can I impress? Very disconnected from ourselves in a deceptive way, self-promoting and vain and kind of phony, actually, in this space. So when we see the deceptive, the desire that underlies this pattern is a desire for attention, success, and admiration. There's actually an essence there. It's the essence of radiance. Think of this like, it's like the glory of the divine. It's like the sun shining every morning in their glory. And so there's this essence of being in that glory, being in that radiance and finding that value, that functioning, that energy. When we see parties doing this kind of pattern, all of these patterns are so easy for us to judge. But in fact, what we can do instead of judging them is understanding the underlying issue, that they are actually feeling worthless and without value. And so remind them that everyone is inherently worthy. Support them in focusing on the relationship so they can get a little bit out of themselves and into the relationship as the powerful place of being and connecting, and help them engage with their feelings and their heart. Because what happens in this pattern is that the heart becomes disengaged. And there is a certain objectification of everything and everyone else. And so supporting them in coming to the heart. And you can do this by telling stories, by asking questions. You can be creative on how to do this, or even just putting the music that it's playing, in the background of your waiting room or something can help bring those forward. And it's a way also of reminding them of their essence. The essence that lies here is, like I said, like the glory of God is an essence of radiance and energy and motivation and achievement. There's a majesty to it and a visibility. It's like the sun, it's like there's a beautiful part of it that we can encourage without getting out of the balance and into a conflict. So that's what we want to persist. All right, barrier number 4. Barrier number 4, the problem of it is what we call the sentimental. The problem of it is a overwhelming focus on feelings. So it's the mood swings, the happy and the sad, the bipolar that takes place in conflicts. So they're either withdrawn or they're over dramatic. It's either or. It's going through that ups and downs. They see life as miserable. It's like, look what they did to me, is the victimization part of it, extreme victimization. And the projection is the self-indulgence. What lies here is a fear of having no identity, no meaning, and no significance. So we start to treat others with disdain, as if they are nobody and they have no meaning, they're meaningless and totally insignificant. We become this over-sentimental and very indulging in ourselves, very individualistic and almost narcissistic. That's the underlying pattern here. So let's watch this short video representing this.
I just found out that after today is over, there's going to be another day tomorrow, and we have to do stuff for that one too.
So that's the 4, the sentimentality of it and the drama of it. And it's the part of us that's like, oh, no one understands me. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and nobody understands that. Everyone lets me down. I am what I feel, and I've got to be me, but people don't understand me. So they feel misunderstood. And in this place, we are very creatively blocked. We become very depressed, hopeless, kind of self-pitying in this place of victimization, self-indulging in our emotions and negative comparisons, that kind of negativity become unproductive and very victimizing. So what's happening underneath this is a great desire to be authentic and to belong to something meaningful, to find the meaning and significance of what's happening. And the essence is the essence of depth. It's depth and mystery and beauty and meaning and origin. Imagine like the part of the divine, that it's the origin of everything and everyone. There's so much mystery in that. What is that? What is that origin? And so this pattern is trying to reach that. And it's trying to do that through mystery and to beauty and to depth. And so the feelings become very prominent. When we face the sentimental as a mediator, what we want to know is that that's what they need. They're looking for. They're looking for that identity, that meaning, that significance. So remind them of the meaning and the significance of themselves, of the relationship that is at issue during the conflict, and even the meaning and significance of the mediation process itself. Any kind of meaning and significance that we can bring to the conversation will be fruitful. We want to encourage them to find clarity of mission, vision, and values, because the idea of mission, vision, and values, it starts bringing them the sense of meaning and significance, and supporting them in any way we can to find a more uplifting inner narrative, to get out of the negativity or the envy that can be here, negative comparisons, the sentimentality that creates some kind of a depressed way of looking at life or at looking at their situation. And in any creative way we can possibly think of, remind them of the essence of beauty and depth and mystery. And it could be something as simple as talking about somebody's artwork, like we just did in the beginning of the presentation, where you bring art into the conversation, and the beauty of art and what that art represents can be a way of awakening that essence that lies within them. And it awakens a different part of them, awakens that essence, that place of origin and impressiveness, that causes an impression on someone. And so that starts changing the energy of the environment within which conflict resolution is taking place. All right, let's go to our fifth barrier to conflict resolution. And that's the one we call the mental. I've been in this place so many times myself. The mental, it's we are carrying grudges, we are trying to make sense of things, and we can't see how things connect, how to make sense of things. We want to rely on hard facts and evidence. I think being a lawyer, we are kind of trained on seeing life through hard facts and evidence. If it's not in the evidence, it's not in the world. And so there is a tendency here to rely harsh on facts and evidence. We want rational explanations. We want something that makes sense. We're trying to connect the dots. And the projection here is one of intellectual arrogance. It's like when I fear that I'm incompetent, I'm insufficient, or I'm incapable, I treat others as if they are incompetent, insufficient, and stupid. So I come into this place of intellectual arrogance in my projection with others, with the world, and that's what exacerbates the conflict. So let's look at a short video representing this. Here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have no midsize available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding. Anybody can just take them.
So you see, I mean, they actually have a very good point, but the intellectual arrogance of it can create an energy within the conflict that becomes difficult to turn it into possibility. But here is what we do in this state is like, I won't ask much of others, but I don't want them to ask much of me either. I want my space. I want my time. I want my space. I can't believe what idiots people are. Or others tell me that I'm strange, or my mind is so intense and active that it never stops. It's always on fire. And what we do in this pattern, we become intellectually arrogant, kind of bizarre. There is this place of insomnia because the mind can't stop. There's ideas going on at all time. We become cynical and provocative, aggressive sometimes, and very antagonistic. Like we want to stay in the fight just to prove our point. It's kind of where we are here. But underneath this lies a great desire to be competent, to be capable, and to feel sufficient. The essence that holds this is the essence of observation, illumination, if you will, investigation, research. It's an essence that's trying to put the world together like a puzzle. How does this puzzle fit in? So when we are in this place, or where we are dealing with someone that is in this place, it's important that we know they want to feel that they feel incompetent, insufficient, and incapable. So how can we support them in feeling competent, sufficient, and capable? And we can do that by learning their rationale. What's your rationale? And how can we use their rationale and expand on it? So work with them in connecting those dots and let them know that we recognize their competencies, we recognize their capabilities, and help them move the body, because it's a way of distracting the mind. So any type, like getting up and move around, go for a walk and come back, or any kind of movement will kind of calm down the mind, the business of the mind. And the essence here, as I mentioned, in any way we can bring forward clarity and discernment, curiosity, observation, illumination. All these words can help. Using these words in our vocabulary, or telling a story about it, or just incorporating that into the dialogue helps them relax and helps them connect with us as mediators. All right, the next one is number 6. And I'm sorry, there's a number 1 here. It's a typo. This is number 6, which we call the skeptical. Very, very common, the skeptical in conflict. The skeptical is the one that it's testing. It's testing what's happening. It's asking a bunch of questions. There is a kind of pressure and nervousness in them. Of course, every time we are in conflict, we are probably feeling some level of conflict, some level of pressure and nervousness. But there is that questioning, that doubting. Is like they can never truly believe what you're saying. I had a party actually yesterday, and she was asking, what do you do in life? And what's your name? And how do you spell your name? And she was like asking like these many questions to just kind of like showing that it will take her a long time to believe me. And just they have issues with trust. There is an issue there with trust, and they're trying to build that trust. What happens here is this attachment to doubt. So when we are in this skeptical place, we are actually in fear of being without support and guidance. And when we are fearful of being without support and guidance, we undermine the support and guidance that are coming our way. We discount it, we don't see it, we can relate to it, because we are trapped into the questioning and the doubting and the nervousness and the pressure of the situation. So here is an example of that. Let's take a look.
It's just like a little sore throat. On a scale from 1 to 10? 1 to 10. Well, what's the scale? Like, what's 1 and what's 10 and what's 5? And people have like swallowed glass And like, I'm assuming that's like an 8, 9. It's probably a 5, if I'm being honest. Like, I imagine if like someone stabbed me in the neck, it would hurt worse. I'll say it, like, for me, it's either no pain or some pain.
So you see that questioning, that doubting, that figuring out what is this, what is that, and it's all present there. So when we are in the skeptical place, we're actually feeling alone. It's like, what am I going to do now? I'm on my own. When will I have enough security? When will I feel safe? What is safe? What is security? I have to find something in this world I can trust. What can I believe in? So we tend to err on the side of caution. We become very, very cautious. And we're always like, what are they up to? What's behind this? What's going on underneath that? The red flags is we become highly positional, kind of paranoid, going from one idea to another, one question to another, panicky, instilling fear, and sort of a rebel and an authoritarian, suspicious of everything, and very argumentative. Those are red flags. But what's underneath this pattern is just really a desire to be safe and to be secure. The essence here is the essence of guidance, intuition, and trust. Where do I find that in the world? What does that mean to trust myself, and let alone to trust someone else? What is that? That's the essence here. It's that great desire to find that trust, that safe, and that safety and that security. So when we are dealing with the skeptic, or when we are in this place of the skeptical, here are some mediator tips. First of all, build trust. Like the lady I was working with yesterday, it took me a long time to answer all her questions, but we did come to a place where she relaxed. Then she could relax. And then I could sense, okay, now she's listening. Now there is trust. There is a relaxation in their energy. So any effort towards building trust becomes very important here, because they're feeling unsafe and in danger. So any way we can support them and feel safer and more secure. And that can be just a question of like, well, do you have a ride home? Would you like me to call you an Uber? Are you okay going home? Is it safe for you to go home at this time or that time? If you have an in-person mediation and they're coming to you or something like that, or you can ask them, well, what would make you feel safer here? How can I support you in feeling more secure? And whenever they have questions, of course, answer their questions to the extent possible, or support them in finding answer. Give them resources or referrals where they can possibly find answers for the questions they have, and achieve a sense of more safety and security. And so it's about reminding them of that essence. The essence here is really the essence of faith. And it's not a religious kind of faith, but how can they experience a direct contact with faith? What is it that we could do to support them in experiencing a sense of being held, being supported, being protected? And there is this awareness and this awakeness and this alertness that it's going on, in that essence, which is part of what they're going to be looking for. Where can I find that place where I'm held and I'm supported and I can feel safer and more secure? Okay, now let's go to barrier number 7. We call barrier number 7 the overarching. That's the one that is trying to grab everything. It's arguing about everything. It's disagreeing about everything. You're talking about this issue, but the person is already talking about that issue and the other issue. And so there's like this multiplicity of matters, issues, and arguments going on all at the same time. They tend to ignore rules and boundaries and guidelines. It just goes like they don't exist. They become uncooperative and unfocused because they're trying to grab every little piece, all at the same time. They are distracted. We can't focus on one issue at a time because they're dealing with 10 issues at the same time. And what happens here is a projection called the frenetic escapism. So when we fear being deprived and trapped, be it trapped in pain or trapped in conflict or trapped in sadness or trapped in the discomfort of the conflict, what we do is we cause pain to others and we make them feel deprived and in pain. And so we create this multiplicity of arguments and disagreements as a way of causing pain to others, causing the pain we are feeling to the others, right? So, and there is a certain kind of like disregard for the other person and what's happening, and just an interest in finding, what else can I go here? What else can I achieve here? So let's look at this quick video.
Understand that she is absolutely serious, that if you are cheating, she is divorcing you.
Yes.
Are you okay with that?
I mean, I don't want to get no divorce, but if that's what, what we got to do, that's what we got to do.
Do you love her?
Yes.
Are you willing to do whatever it takes to stay with her?
No.
Do you?
So you see, there's a certain objectification here. It's like the other person doesn't become that important. It's more important for me to do whatever else I want to do. And a kind of a disregard in a way, in that sense. So in this place, we'll say things like, I'm not going to sit around here feeling sorry for myself. I'll take care of myself. I don't care what they feel. I'll take care of myself. It's like, I don't want to miss out. The grass is always greener on the other side, on the next opportunity I have. I only live once, and I don't like to deal with sadness and pain. And the red flags here become this place of being dissatisfied. I look for addictions out there, whatever can distract me and give me, a little joy, a temporary joy. So there's this escapist aspect of what I'm doing. I have trouble following through, very demanding and excessive, kind of pushy and insensitive, objectifying others and the situation. So what's possible with the overarching dynamic is to understand their desire for excitement and fun and novelty. This is an excitement for igniting possibilities, opening up possibilities, and the possibility is always somewhere else other than where I am. It's an essence that is very generative and very moving forward, very expanding and expansive. It looks like joy on the outside because, we are always looking like what can be, but not always it's joyful inside. But when we are in this dynamic, or when we see someone in this dynamic, we know that they are feeling deprived and they feel trapped in pain. So what we want to do is really support them into breathing. Breathing, come to this moment, encourage the adherence to the process, because that's the way to expedite things. The more we adhere to the process, the faster this is going to go. Create opportunities to quiet down, to be present, even just encouraging a good breath. Let's take a good breath and encourage people to take a good breath, kind of have a pause. It's one way of bringing them into the moment and supporting them in finding some kind of focus and presence that can help them cooperate with the process and find resolution. And what we're doing here is really reminding them of this essence of generativity, of potentialities and possibilities and growth and expansion, and bringing that forward in a way that we can balance and use it for conflict resolution. Okay, we have 2 more to go. Let's go into the 8 pattern, which we call the challenging. The challenging is a pattern that is very prominent in conflict. It's the blaming. the challenging is always blame. You've got to find someone to blame too. And there's a rudeness and a bullying aspect to it. It's very disruptive, trying to disrupt what's happening. And it's my truth versus your truth. And my truth, of course, is always the truth. And your truth is the lie. And the projection here is this energy of constant fighting. There is a fear underneath it all, which is the fear of being rejected, hurt, or betrayed. So because I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected, hurt, or betrayed, I just do that before the other does it to me. So I use domination and intimidation to reject, hurt, and betray others. And I enter into this place of constantly fighting with the world and everything that shows up in front of me. Here is a little video representing this dynamic. Here we go. You see the retaliation that happens in this energy is very challenging. And when we are in this dynamic, we are in this space of, I have to fight for everything. I got to be tough or the world will eat me alive. You know, it's like it's a jungle out there. You eat what you kill. They will have to deal with me. That's a good one. Or no one tells me what to do. And I rarely apologize. I actually don't apologize in this place. There's no sorries in my world. Kind of where it is. And the red flag here is I'm always looking for a fight. My heart has just hardened into rock. It's like my heart is not even present. I become aggressive and threatening and intimidating, very confrontational and very abusive. And what's happening underneath this dynamic is a great desire for independence and control. The essence that sustains this desire is an essence of power and vitality and confidence and autonomy. Think of the essence of the Big Bang, for example. You know, the Big Bang, all was nothing, and all of a sudden comes the Big Bang and disrupts the status quo. It's like you can't avoid that. It's right immediate on your face, and it's right there. That's the essence of this person or ourselves when we are in this dynamic. And so the potentiality here is to see that they are feeling rejected, hurt, or betrayed. So when we see them in that space, what can we do? We can ask them about what they love. The idea is to awaken that heart again, to soften that heart, the heart that has become rock-like. How can I soften that heart and bring the heart into the conversation? Support them in enforcing the rules and guidelines, because that will create a framework so that they don't bring the abuse or any of that into the game. It's like, this is the framework that we're going to work. And within this framework, they may feel a lot more safe to be vulnerable, to bring the heart into the conversation. And emphasize neutrality and truth finding. Truth is very important for the challenger, except that they think that their truth is the truth. So helping them recognizing there are many truths in every story. What's truth for you is just as truth for the other person from their perspective. So every truth is significant when we are resolving conflicts. And so help them recognize that. And bringing any creative way of reminding them of this essence of power and initiation and immediacy, this being large and in charge and domineering, and how this essence can be beautifully expressed in a balanced way, you know, in a way that brings love together with it. Martin Luther King has said, love without power is anemic, and power without love is abusive. And so supporting them in bringing both together, the power and love. And finally, the last barrier to conflict resolution is what we call the elusive. And the elusive is the one that is refusing to engage. It's almost like the body, their body is there, we are there in our body, but the mind is someplace else, the heart is someplace else. They are like, we are in another orbit. We love to make excuses when we are playing the elusive. We are actually going like, is it worth being involved here? What am I doing here? There's this passive aggressiveness in what we do, of course, because we are suppressing so much what we really think, what we really feel, that eventually it blows out in some way, as you will see in the video coming forward. But the projection here is that of stubborn neglectfulness. I feel afraid of being separated and losing connection. So what I do is I separate other people. I turn other people off. I make them feel that they're lost and without connection because I don't let them get to me. And by not letting them get to me, I maintain my power, if you will. I maintain my peace because I don't let them get to me. It's like I put a wall around me and I become stubborn inside that wall. So let's see a representation of this in court. Look at this boy. Look at the boy in the video. Here we go.
Florida, for a courtroom moment you might have missed in the high-profile case of Casey Anthony. During the 5th week of the trial, an unusual situation was brought to the attention of Judge Belvin Perry. A 28-year-old spectator in the gallery named Matthew Bartlett made an inappropriate hand gesture toward prosecutor Jeff Ashton, who was addressing the court. A member of the media reported the moment, and the gesture got back to the judge, who's not happy. And now he's called Bartlett before him.
You recognize the individual on that photograph, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and who is it?
This is me.
And what is that symbol that you are projecting with your fingers?
Using my middle finger, and I am sorry.
And who were you extending the finger to, sir?
Mr. Ashton.
You see this sign?
Yes, sir.
And does not this sign read any gestures, facial expressions showing approval or disapproval during a court proceeding is absolutely prohibited? That sign is posted on the door outside, is it not?
It is.
Was there anything about that that you did not understand, sir?
No, sir.
Could you tell this court why you should not be held in contempt of court?
I'm truly sorry for doing this. This is something stupid, and I'm not sure why I even did it. And I just apologize. I don't understand why I did it. I do apologize.
The maximum sentence for contempt of court in the state of Florida is a year.
So there you go. And I was like, I don't know who did it. I don't know. I did it. I don't know why. It's like, I don't want to rock the boat. It's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's just, I don't know what's going on. Whatever. I don't let things get to me. It's like, I will deal with this later. It's kind of the pattern here. And the red flags is we come to this place of peace at any price. We just create this wall. It's a neglectful, it's disempowering. It's like we're stonewalling, resigned, unresponsive, and sort of apathetic. I don't know, that kind of energy. So underneath that kind of energy, there is a great desire to be in peace, to be in harmony, to find that unity. The essence that holds it is the essence of inclusiveness, oneness, unity, indivisibility. So when we see someone in this place of the elusive, or when we are in the place of the elusive, what we want to do is inspire them, ask them, what inspires you? Bring inspiration to the conversation, or somehow awaken inspiration into what's happening. inspiration can support them in engaging, finding constructive engagement. How can they be present? And it could be like having a tea. Let's have a tea. The fact that they're drinking the tea grounds their presence into what's happening. Or having them write 2 or 3 things you agree or disagree. The exercise of writing brings them into the moment, brings their mind, their heart, their body into what's happening, so that they're not traveling, somewhere else. And of course, remind them of the essence, this oneness, the inclusivity, the harmony, the peace, the relaxation, creating an environment that is somewhat relaxing, maybe having a plant in the room, or a window in the room, creating that place of relaxation can support them in kind of bringing themselves into what's happening. And that's how we support them in coming to a place where resolution can take place. So these are the 9 barriers to conflict resolution. Here are some mediators tips. I have a chart here that summarizes it all, the ego part and the essence part. It kind of brings everything into one chart. And then I have a cheat sheet here for you that kind of positions all of these patterns into a set of 3 behaviors and 3 strategies. And I think as mediators, the more we can balance ourselves in terms of these 3 behaviors, these 3 strategies, the more we can encompass and embrace all of these dynamics. And the behavior is being assertive, earning what's happening, earning the trust, earning the relaxation, earning the possibility of conflict resolution, and also knowing what to avoid. And I like to say there, every time somebody speaks, they're going to speak, certain things are going to come from the ego, certain things are going to come from essence. And if I can kind of avoid the ego part of the conversation and focus on the essence part of the conversation, I think there is a greater opportunity for a higher level of communication. And so learning how to balance the assertiveness with the earnest and the avoidance in our behavior as a mediator becomes very important. And also to create a strategy that it's positive, it has a positive outlook, a positive perspective to what's happening. There's hope, and it's also logical. There is a rationality to what we say or what we do or how we do it, but also bringing forward the emotion, the emotional realness, not discounting or not wanting to address, the emotional part of it, because the emotion is also a very important piece. And so balancing the positive, the logical, and the emotional becomes very important. So what we have next, this is the bibliography, and that's it. So thank you so much for being with me here. Let's open, I think we have another 20 to 30 minutes for discussion